Today, I am so honored and humbled to have with me the incredible and inspirational Scarlett Lewis, who lost her son Jesse in the tragic Sandy Hook school shooting on December 14th, 2012. She decided to be part of the solution and founded the Jesse Lewis Choose Love movement that teaches children how to give and receive love through the social and emotional learning. Welcome, Scarlett, to the new mid.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle.
Well, I am just so excited to have you here. And before we got on, we were talking so much, and there's so many fun things to talk about. But first of all, I would love for you. Can you just tell us a little bit about Jesse?
Oh, I'd love to. Jesse, I like to introduce him by saying he was born 11 pounds. So he was born larger than life. And he was a C-section. So the first time I saw him, I walked down to the nursery, and all of these nurses were gathered around the window taking pictures. I walked up behind them and I said, "What are you taking pictures of?" And they said, "There's this enormous baby who is trying to crawl out of his bassinet." And there was Jesse in the clear plastic bassinet where they put the newborns, and he crawled all the way down to the bottom and was exhausted after trying to get out. So that's a great way to introduce him. He was larger than life. He was loud. He was happy, boisterous, protective. He loved his family. We live on a little farm. He loved his aminals, he called them. And so we still call them aminals. And he was very brave. And we knew he was brave. He acted brave. And of course, he acted brave during his final moments as well.
Well, yes, you have mentioned that he had so much courage. So, if you wouldn't mind, could you tell us a little bit about that day on December 14th, 2012?
Yes. So December 14th, 2012 was the day of the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. And that started like any other day for us. I His father actually was picking him up at the end of the driveway. I turned around to give him a kiss, and he had written in the frost on the side of my car, "I love you." And he'd drawn hearts in all the windows. And knowing that that was one of life's moments, I said, "Just wait here for a minute. I'm going to run back and get my camera so I can take a picture." And I did. I positioned him by that little message of "I love you." I took his picture. I took a close up of the "I love you." And then I gave him a kiss and sent him on his way, not knowing that that was the last picture that would ever be taken of him and the last time I would ever see him. I got to work. I'm a single mother. And then work full time, sole supporter, and was met with people saying that there was a school shooting somewhere in Sandy Hook, and then we realized it was at Jesse's school, and so I rushed back, but obviously by then it was too late.
Oh my gosh. To think back that you have that picture, that you
Mm.
had the forethought to say, wait a minute, I want to take this picture. Because so many of us, we are on that treadmill and we're like, you just need to get to school, goodbye, and not really taking that moment. What do you think it was inside you that made you stop and take that picture?
Well, I think we operate from our five senses for the most part, but then there's that sixth sense. It's kind of that spiritual awareness that we have, that gut feeling that we all have, but that we're so distracted and so busy every day that we move away from. And I really tried to follow that knowing. I really tried to live my life being present in the moment, not in the past and ruminating, and not in the future and worrying, but really in the present with my kids. And I practiced that. So I was fairly good at it. And I think that's also where we can benefit from that sixth sense. And not that I had a sense that morning that anything was going to happen, but but it does, when you are in the moment, you do realize that, that you're living life and that this is a precious time. And, it is the way to live your life with the fewest regrets, being present with the ones that you love. And I really tried to do that. So I am so thankful because, I knew that that was one of life's moments, and I was able to capture it.
That is incredible. And for to be a mom to have that is amazing, especially after everything that happened. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about Jesse's courage. Do you mind talking a little bit more about the courage he showed that day?
Absolutely. So, when the shooter, who was a former student of Sandy Hook Elementary School, whose mother had taught at the school, when he came back to perpetrate the crime, he killed a couple of administrators right outside of Jesse's door. Then he turned into that classroom, and Jesse stood to face him. His gun ran out of bullets, and Jesse called for his friends to run during the short delay, and he was able to save, and is credited with saving 9 lives, which is really incredible. And that for me was such an inspiration, because it was so difficult following his murder. But I knew, I knew that if he had the courage to do that at 6 years old, then I certainly could have the courage to get up every day, to put my best foot forward, to be the best version of myself, and also to be part of the solution to the issues that we're seeing that are escalating in our schools, homes, and communities, and to be a part of that.
Well, you're absolutely right. And I think that's where you decided, well, actually, when was it? What moment was it that sort of did the light switch and you did decide to become part of the solution?
Well, it was kind of a gradual thing, and I was learning a lot. I was doing my usual, trying to be present, even in that difficulty. And I was watching along with the world how people were reacting. And there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of finger pointing, blaming, fault finding. And I knew I didn't want to be a part of that. I wanted to address the cause of how something like that could happen. So I was really pointed in that direction by Jesse again, who had written a message on our kitchen chalkboard shortly before he died. He wrote 3 words: nurturing, healing, love. Now, they were phonetically spelled because he was in first grade and just learning to write, but doctoral professors have done research on those words since and found that all 3 are in the definition of compassion across all cultures. And when I went home for the first time following the shooting, I saw that message, and I knew instantly that if the shooter had been able to give and receive nurturing, healing love, that the tragedy would never have happened. It was so simple, but I knew that simple isn't always easy. And so I started researching, how do we get nurturing, healing love as the foundation of cultures in our school? And I came upon something called social and emotional learning, which is programming that teaches kids and educators just essential life skills that you utilize your entire life. They are the direct path to flourishing. There's so much research, decades of research behind the benefits of teaching kids these really simple life skills, like being able to have healthy relationships and meaningful connections, being able to manage our emotions, being able to learn from, grow through, and be strengthened by difficulty, the ability to make responsible decisions, just to name a few. We're not born with these skills and tools. We need to learn them. And ironically, they're the same skills and tools that CEOs are looking for. We use them in every aspect of our life, and we practice them every day, but we have to be introduced to them and taught them. And I realized that if our shooter had been able to give and receive nurturing, healing love, or had some of these skills and tools, that the tragedy would never have happened. And so I set about trying to figure out a way that I could make sure that every child had access to what we know is in their best interest.
What's powerful to me is that children learn from their parents. They learn at school, but they learn
Mhm.
a lot from their parents. And my mom always says, values are caught, not taught. So Jesse obviously caught a lot from you. And the fact that he would know the words nurturing, he would know the words healing, he had to have heard that from somewhere. And to see what you do, it's very apparent to me that he learned that from you. Now, you were a single mom and you had a son. Jesse has an older brother, JT.
Mhm.
So what's powerful to me, and if you don't mind going back a little bit, you talk about the growth and the skills that you teach, and I want to get dive into that and get a little more specific. But you could have just put the covers over your head and not gotten out of bed, but you also have, you know, you have Jesse's brother to think of, and you need to be that example, right? So
Mhm.
how can you take us back? What was your thought process? How did you think about this circumstance for anybody who might be going through a tragedy, or who might not be able to get over the tragedy that they themselves have gone through?
Well, JT is Jesse's older brother, and he was 12 years old at the time. And, I'll take you all the way back to December 14th, when I was waiting at the school to see whether they were going to be able to find Jesse alive. JT was in lockdown in a neighboring middle school. And so he texted me and asked me if he could come wait with me until they found Jesse. And I said, sure, because of course nothing terrible like that happens to normal people like me, like that. I still, even though I was waiting at the end of the cul-de-sac at this firehouse and all, I'm sure you can imagine just chaos. I still firmly believed, as I was being told, that they were going to find Jesse. And so I allowed my 12-year-old into that situation, just total chaos, to wait with me until they found him. Well, of course, several hours later, it turned out very badly, that we were told that he was murdered. But before then, I had a lot of first responders coming up and asking me questions. Do you have a recent picture of Jesse? Did he have any identifying marks? Not good questions. And I realized, remember, I tried to be present in the moment, and I was consciously trying to do that even then, especially with JT there. And so I could thoughtfully respond and not react, and I could, maintain some semblance of control. And I realized in the moment, as I was looking over at JT, as I was answering these difficult questions, that he was learning right then and there in the moment, by watching me, how to handle difficulty, roadblocks, challenges, even pain and suffering, perhaps even tragedy, for the rest of his life. I knew that what I was doing in the moment was very significant for him, because we teach, as you said, our children, and not necessarily through what we say, but by what we do. And that awareness in the moment helped me rise to the occasion and be the best version of myself for him, because I knew that I was teaching him. So it doesn't mean that I wasn't authentic and that I wasn't afraid, that I wasn't emotional at some points, but it does mean that I was aware that this was a really important moment for JT, and that it was up to me to model for him what getting through this would look like in the best possible way.
Wow. And he became an advocate himself, I believe, and has even gotten into political aspirations.
He did become an advocate. I mean, he watched me trying to be part of the solution. He had an incredible experience where orphan genocide survivors reached out to him from Rwanda and told him via Skype so we could see their faces. Hey, JT, we heard about what happened to your little brother all the way over here in Rwanda. And, we want to share our experience with you, which included watching their parents be murdered and their siblings. And we want you to know, even after we went through that you are going to be okay and you're going to feel joy again. And I remember standing behind JT thinking, wow, these guys have a
Yeah.
lot of credibility. They've been through something worse than we have. And this is such an incredible message. And, if they can do it, we certainly can do it. So JT turned around and he started an organization called Newtown Helps Rwanda. And he put a couple of those orphan genocide survivors through university. He then went on to build self-sustaining fish ponds for former children soldiers in Uganda through an organization called Children of Peace. He helped countless severely traumatized kids in the United States. And what I learned from him is that we heal ourselves by helping others. And so he did that. And yes, he was outspoken as well with what he believed in. And he realized that I think too often we express a lot of anger and we point fingers and we want answers. But there are some things in life that other people can't do for us, and that we really have to take our part of the responsibility for what goes on in our lives and in our homes and in our communities, and be part of the solution ourselves. If you look at the issue of school shootings, which still continues, if our leadership could have fixed that, they absolutely would have. And that goes for substance abuse, that goes for suicide, mental illness, other types of violence, bullying. Obviously, nobody wants anyone to suffer. And almost everyone has been touched by one or more of those issues, or somebody that has, and yet they continue to escalate. So then, that is obvious that it requires everyone to take their part of the responsibility for what's going on in our world and really stepping up to the plate to be part of the solution.
Well, what's amazing about what you and your son have been doing is spreading compassion around the world and being that example. And that is where the Choose Love movement has, started from. So, can you tell us a little bit about the Choose Love movement and what you teach?
Absolutely. So the Choose Love movement is really based on a foundation of choosing love over fear. And it's based in Jesse's message of amplifying, nurturing, healing love within ourselves. We have to love and appreciate ourselves first before we can do that for other people. Then we extend the learning into classrooms, schools, homes, communities, and even workplaces now, and governmental agencies. And we teach essential life skills that I was discussing before. We teach how to identify, label, manage, and express emotions, how to thoughtfully respond to what happens in our lives, and to respond with love, taking our personal power back. We can't always choose what happens to us in life, and but we can choose how we thoughtfully respond. And when we respond with love, we are empowered. And when we react with prolonged anger, hatred, and revenge, we lose that power. And so it's a pretty simple formula that we base all of our teaching on. And we include not just social and emotional learning and character education, but neuroscience and mindfulness and post-traumatic growth and growth mindset and positive psychology and so much more into one program. And of course, it's no cost because this type of learning was priced out of the market to my son. And everyone, we know through decades of research that this is a direct path to flourishing. And when you think about what you want for yourself and your kids, it's to flourish. And this is the way to do it. And so we launched this program about 5 years ago. And in the past 5 years, by word of mouth, it has now grown to being taught in over 10,000 schools in every state in 112 countries, because it is centered on the fact that we are all the same as human beings, despite any perceived difference in the want and need to love and be loved. And when we can't make that choice, or when we don't feel love and connection, then we experience problems.
Well, you know what? It's funny because people can just get eaten up by anger. It can just really do wreak havoc on a person. And when they don't have any source of love, where are they going to turn to? What are they going to do? So the skills you're teaching people are so powerful. And I just think about how one person, how you have affected how many, you're in over 100 countries, you're in all 50 states. Like, how many people are you touching? Because not only are you touching these children, but the children will touch their friends and their parents. It's that, and it's that ripple effect, like when you drop a pebble in the fountain and it ripples. And that's what you have done, which is just so incredible and amazing. And congratulations. So how have you seen the movement evolve since you started it?
Well, that's a great question, because I started in schools. And so we created pre-K through 12th grade programming. And then I remember going to a conference on trauma. And I've experienced trauma in my life. JT has experienced previous trauma. And I started learning a lot about it. And I realized that there's a lot of trauma that goes on in homes that the kids then bring into schools. And it is so prevalent now. Before going into COVID, between 35 and 50% of kids coming into the classroom had experienced a recent traumatic event. Now they're saying it's around 90%. So and a lot of this comes from the home. And so I thought, I had like this lightning strike that went through me. And I thought, oh my gosh, I should have started with homes. Because here's the interesting thing. And I said before, these essential life skills have to be taught. We're not born with them. So I didn't have them. I mean, I'm living proof. I can say that because at 44 years old, I have a college education. I was an investment banker, and I was a real estate agent. I was a little bit of everything as a single mom trying to support my family, but I wasn't socially and emotionally intelligent. And I realized very quickly, looking into these essential life skills, that I didn't have a lot of them. And I have learned them as an adult. And I have to tell you that my life is exponentially better. And so we created a home program so that the parents and siblings could learn right alongside the child that's going to school. You don't have to even have this being taught to your child at school. You can bring it into your home. It's no cost. So I encourage all of your listeners to check it out at chooselovemovement.org. And then I started having community members approach me. And I mean, like chief of police, the mayor, the president of the Chamber of Commerce, the PTA president, and just different people in the community say, hey, First of all, we want to support what's going on in our schools and our homes. And we also want to choose love. How do we get involved? So we created a community portion to the programming as well. And now we're seeing communities celebrate Choose Love. The mayors are having proclamations of Choose Love movement days. And we're seeing that throughout the country. I've even heard that Nagoya City in Japan is going to become a Choose Love city, and they have a population of 2.5 million, and they've been translating the program for their students. So this is amazing. And this is what I really wanted everyone to see all across the world, is that we're all the same as human beings in the want and need to love and be loved, and then to provide a powerful formula that can lead us and help support us make that choice in any situation, circumstance, or interaction. Because you were talking about anger, and anger has its place. Anger can be good. There's a reason that we get angry, because it is telling us, hey, something's wrong, somebody's not treating you right, you need to make changes, and that's a good thing. But prolonged anger, hatred, resentment, those are negative things. Those are negative things for your health and well-being. And when you feel those things, by the way, you are giving away your personal power. And it is specifically what I did not want to do to the shooter. I did not want to be another victim of Adam Lanza, giving him power, which anger would do, over my thoughts, that then impact how I feel, that then impacts how I show up for my relationships and how I behave. And really, I had to forgive the shooter so that I could take my personal power back.
That is incredible. I mean, being able to take your personal power back and forgive is a huge step in healing. And I think all of us can learn from you from just that simple act, but all of the other things that you have put into the world is incredible. So you mentioned it briefly. How can people get involved in the Choose Love movement?
Oh, there's so many different ways, and we need your help. We need to take responsibility for what's going on in our kids' schools and in our communities. And so please check out our website. We have advocate opportunities. So we have pre-written letters and emails that you can send your schools. Every school should have a comprehensive social and emotional learning program taught with fidelity. That means embraced by all. And it should be year long, and it should be something that they practice every single day. Ask your school if they do. And if they don't, please introduce them to the Choose Love movement. That's exactly what this is. And it is no cost. So that's the great thing about it. And so advocate for it. Share our website on your social media. Tell your friends and family about it. We've got incredible events that are going on all year long. So many different ways to help and to help us spread the message. And this message, this movement has been spread by word of mouth over the past 8 years. And now we're positively impacting millions of people. And so we can do this. We can take responsibility for what's going on. I used to think, I'd read the paper or hear about things going on in my community, and I think, you know what? There's nothing that I can do. I am just going to focus on my 2 kids, and I'm going to, make them be the best people that they can be. And that's about all I can do. But I've realized that there is so much more that we can do. And even further, when we do for others, when we serve, we are doing for ourselves and serving and healing ourselves. It's pretty amazing.
Oh my gosh, Scarlett, you are amazing. And I'm so grateful that you came on the Newman. Thank you so much for all that you do and for sharing your time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor, Michelle.